Amazing. All right. So really quick, I think we have the time, hopefully. Let's take a second and just big stretch. Oh, big stretch. Step out of the chairs. I know. Oh, the chairs. Stretch this way. Big stretch that way. Don't forget, like Janice did, to breathe. Breathe. I see my coworker making fun of me out in the hallway. He's doing it over there too. Excellent. All right, so quick disclaimer. Next Ride doesn't get to talk about air pollution as much as we'd like to. Normally, when we're engaging with the public on low emission and zero emission vehicles, we're usually talking about it from a climate change greenhouse gas perspective. So I'm really excited today to be able to delve in with you guys, some serious subject matter expertise, really delve into it with you guys and get some constructive feedback if there is any. So don't spare my feelings on this one, guys. If you think I've misrepresented or could improve the presentation, please do say so. Awesome. So got these 4 little icons on the bottom of the page. The first one is a little bar graph. So I'm going to try to give some context. What is transportation doing in Canada as well as Nova Scotia? Why does it matter? Why do we care? I hope you know, with the audience that we have today, that's pretty clear. But I'll just really quickly add some data to kind of back up some of that context and why we should give a darn, really. And then we'll move right along into what is an electric vehicle, what is a plug-in hybrid, what do I mean with these terms? So kind of defining them a little bit, give you some examples and context. And then we'll move right along into, well, are they truly green? Are they truly low pollutants vehicles if there's a utility that's burning coal and other sources of fuel to generate the electricity that then powers these cars? The cars might not have a tailpipe, but are you just kicking the issue one step up the supply chain? So we'll cover that. And lastly, should there be time, I'll cover off some cool safety facts about electric vehicles compared to other vehicles and talk about some future trends. And that's the little hourglass, because often I have to rush around that time. No, I'm kidding. It's for future trends, the hourglass. So moving right along, who are we? I'm a representative of Next Ride. We're from the Clean Foundation, coming to you live from downtown Dartmouth right now. And I'm going to check the www.airhealth.ca after this and see how is downtown Dartmouth doing. Hopefully I can get down to that scope, check out our air quality. So Next Ride is a not-for-profit paid for by you and I, the public taxpayers, to give as unbiased information as we can, we do try, on low emission vehicles and electric vehicles. We go all throughout the province in scope. So Janice, maybe we'll see you at an event sometime down on the South Shore. We're planning it for the spring. We have delivered so far on our tiny team, very proud to say, over 2,000 test drives. So we're a unique awareness well, not unique, we're a different awareness program in that people actually get to step into an electric vehicle. And I saw in the chat right before I went in full presenter view, yeah, we're not delivering test drives this year for this conference. So they actually get to step into the vehicle, drive the vehicle, tactilely understand how it feels and performs. So it's great that way. And it's a lot of fun for us. We get to drive some pretty nice cars. We've visited, as I mentioned, we're provincial in scope. We visited over 33 communities. That actually needs to be updated. It's 34 now. And we've spoke with over 6,000 Nova Scotians. So pretty impressive for a small team of 3. So I promised some data. Here it comes, transportation's impacts. So some of you in the room may actually recognize this slide. It's a Health Canada slide. It's in percentages of national emissions. So we're Canadian in scope at the moment. And it's talking about some of the very same pollutants that we heard in our first presentation: carbon monoxide, nitrous oxides, VOCs, PM 2.5s, and other fine particulate matters. I would like you guys to focus on the last 3 on that legend, the light blue, the medium blue, and the dark blue. Those 3 colors, I'd like to turn your focus to that. And then we can talk about that big orange bar in a second. Those first three light blue colors that I'm mentioning, those are some of the technology that can be or already are low emission and electrified vehicles. So when we travel through Nova Scotia, we often hear people will say, that's really cool. This is a cool car, but the technology is just not quite there yet. It won't fit my life. The average Nova Scotian electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids can fit their life. I travel the province in them 2 and 3 times a week. I go long distance. I can definitely say the technology is there. So I just wanted to point this out and highlight some of the contributing factors to pollutants in Canada and some of the large national percentages that they represent, and that there are solutions out there. Next up, not on that previous graph, again at the Canadian scale, we're looking at black carbon. So transportation emissions are a huge part of that. So we'd like to reduce that as much as we can. And unfortunately, we do see a little bit of an uptick, and you see that trending down by 2016, and it's starting to creep back up, that transportation and mobile equipment, the darkest color on the slide there, starting to creep back up from 2013 to 2018. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your view, but unfortunately from NextRide's view, SUV ownership is replacing sedan ownership. So we're seeing, although vehicles are becoming more fuel efficient per kilometer they're traveling, we're starting to see consumer preferences for larger vehicles tend towards larger vehicles. So we're seeing an increase in the actual size of the vehicle, even though in my second or third last slide now, we'll talk about why SUVs aren't necessarily the safest vehicles on the road for several reasons. We'll discuss that. So it's an interesting consumer choice given the facts, but we all know that's strange because we're all such rational actors in the marketplace, right? We all know that stuff. Okay, so I promised a who cares, so what kind of slide. So here we go. Here is, and this may not surprise many of you in the room, but it did me when I first looked this up. Deaths in Canada in 2019, we're looking at air pollutant deaths sourced from Health Canada. Air pollutant deaths compared to what some people think about when they're on a test drive with myself, motor vehicle accidents. How safe are these vehicles? Well, it's interesting, you know, in action films, in society, you know, motor vehicle accidents can be a concern, particularly in action films. It seems like there's a motor vehicle accident, at least one in every action film. So it seems like they happen all the time. Well, actually, air pollutants are causing far more damage and deaths, quite frankly, than motor vehicle accidents. 7.5 times the deaths. So it is a big concern, as all of you know in the room. I just wanted to add a little context for that. The soundbite for that, 7.5. Awesome. Next up, another so what. Nova Scotia, this is again Health Canada. We're looking at a breakdown of the provinces, so giving a little bit more Nova Scotian context to the Canadian problem. Nova Scotia, we can see, I'll highlight there for you. Yeah, there we go. So Nova Scotia, almost 1 million of us, and we're looking at some of the different damages caused by air pollutants. We see in the per 100,000 population premature mortality counts in the middle of this chart. That's quite a few given our background number. And the next one over, we can see valuation in billions of dollars. I looked up the annual healthcare budget. I think it's something like $2.3 billion in Nova Scotia every year. So to contextualize that for us, if we look at the 1.9 billion that we're losing out on in damages, this is lost work, productivity. You know, if we're in our work, now our home more often and the air quality is not that decent or good, and it could be, that's lost productivity that we are likely not achieving. It would be great if more people drive electric cars, plug-in hybrids, the technology adopts. We'll start to bring down some of the transportation emissions. It would be great to see some of these numbers improve. Okay, so there's my data. The future is electric. I like to put this advertisement in my presentation. It's not a product plug for Volkswagen, although they're a fine car company. It just summarized how we feel at NextRide and how the industry feels, quite frankly. Volkswagen, a lot of people don't know this, happened to be the largest investor in battery electric technology. It's not Tesla, it's not Toyota, it's actually Volkswagen. So I threw that up there. They also had a diesel scandal, so they have some penance to pay, I suppose, in this regard. So the future is electric. So even industry has sort of put their finger up to the wind, and no matter if it's dry air or damp air, they felt that wind, no matter the barometric pressure, and the industry wind is shifting. It's shifting towards plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles. And if Volkswagen is doing it, hands up in the video, or throw up in the chat if you guys want. If you guys have driven in an electric vehicle before, it counts if it was with NextRide last year. Do throw it up. I'm interested to see the numbers on that. And if not, then we'll have to book an appointment with you guys, get you guys in the driver's seat. So what do I mean when I say electric? I mean, Volkswagen's got this beautiful lineup of cars. Okay, what is that? Well, what I'm talking about are the two vehicles that we see in the middle of our page and the right of my page. So plug-in hybrid electric, it's got the little border around it, and battery electric. These are typically what we're talking about when we say EVs, electric vehicles. It's not the hybrids that we see on our furthest left. Although they do have a small battery in the vehicle, it's not the same type of battery. It's not a lithium-ion battery often, and it's quite small relative to the other vehicles that we're talking about. The capacity for a plug-in hybrid to store electrical energy and use it while you're driving is much more than a Prius or a Prius Prime. So the plug-in hybrids and the battery electrics. The plug-in hybrid does have a little gas engine. Often it's used just as a generator. It's actually not often, there's exceptions, but often it's usually just to supply generation power for the batteries, and the batteries are running the motor, which drives the car. So often it has a much reduced transmission, doesn't have as many parts as a hybrid car or a gas car. And if that's too much, and the battery electric, of course, just has electric, no gas, no oil. No transmission even. And if that's too much to remember, just remember I'm talking about cars that plug in. Simple. If it has a plug, it's at least a plug-in hybrid or a fully electric car. All right, here's another chat question. I am interested. Who's seen this TV and internet ad? I have, but I'm cheating. I'm biased. Great. So I see some hands up. Excellent. So for those of you who threw your hand up, you'll already know this. So you guys can go and get a quick water break for about 20 seconds. For those of you who haven't thrown your hand up, this is a fully electric Ford F-150, and it's pulling 49 gas Ford F-150s in that train car, which I can see Lacey doing the mental math in her head. 49 Ford F-150 gas cars equals to 1.25 million pounds. I'm rounding up a little. Lacey, you would have done the same. I'm rounding up a little bit, but not by much. So 1.25 million pounds. So it's an amazing work vehicle. A lot of people, when they think of plug-in hybrids, they think Prius. When they think of fully electric cars, they're thinking a Chevy Bolt or something, you know, a sedan, not a work vehicle. They're thinking it won't tow, it won't haul a trailer, it won't do work. Untrue. The fully electric vehicles have an enormous amount of torque. And as this Ford commercial tried to show people, they're going to be developing this vehicle that's going to be able to haul at incredibly low speeds. So no matter where you are in your speed curve, no matter how fast you're traveling, you're going to be able to haul an enormous amount of weight. Awesome. So not just little commuter vehicles anymore. Electric vehicles have expanded. Trucks are coming in 2022 for those interested in pre-orders. There's a few out there already. Awesome. So in addition to commuter vehicles single occupant vehicles and smaller work vehicle, light passenger. If you recall back to that first bar graph with the 3 blue colors that I talked about, there was also larger vehicles and transport vehicles represented in that data. So I did want to just show there is electrification, low emission vehicles for that sector as well. We see one Canadian company and one distributed a lot in Canada. We see Lion Electric doing school buses as well as transport buses, transport trucks, sorry, for cargo. School buses are uniquely, and transit buses are uniquely set up for electrification. They know down to a kilometer how far they're traveling day after day, so there's no surprises. They have a set route, in other words. They are uniquely concerned about tailpipe emissions because they're traveling with kids. The bus has kids on board and is surrounded by children when it goes to the school. So school buses, in this example, have no tailpipe emissions, so no smog concerns, and especially with children, as some of you in the audience will know, some of the smog forming VOCs that we're talking about can be very carcinogenic for particularly developing lungs. So it's good to have a school bus that doesn't have that concern. And then we see in the bottom of the screen, we've got a Tesla Semi moving some cargo. And I'll talk a little bit more about battery in transportation for heavy hauls, like moving goods from Ontario to Nova Scotia, but that'll come later. Okay, energy generation, next chapter. But just to back up and sort of contextualize very quickly. I hope I've kind of shown you that there are options out there without actually having you guys step into a vehicle for a test drive. So I hope that's been fairly well communicated. Awesome. So here is our electrical grid. I get it all the time when we're driving Nova Scotians and when they're driving and asking us at our information booth, well, hold on, you're saying it's a no tailpipe emissions. That might be great. But what about, aren't you just kicking the can up the road? What about the energy generation? I've heard that Nova Scotia has all this coal. That can't be good. I should just stick with my gas. It's going to pollute less, right? No, not the case. Here's a breakdown of Nova Scotia Power's grid. We live in a monopoly utility setup, so they're the only player in town. So nice little pie chart for us here. So you can see we've got a little bit of wind, hydro and tidal, natural oil and gas. It's kind of getting there, okay, but that solid fuel, you probably guessed it, that's coal. They renamed it for the purposes of this graph. So it's not great to have 76% coal on the grid. However, the Union of Concerned Scientists did a study in 2019, and they looked at all of the states. Unfortunately, I don't have Nova Scotian data on this one, but it'll carry over. In all of the 50 states in the Americas, in the United States, they couldn't find a state where even low emission vehicles or very efficient gas cars were as emission friendly as fully electric ones, plugged in to their grid. So in other words, there's no state in the United States where if you plug in an electric car, it's worse than a gas car. And there are some states with some high coal reliance, higher than the 76%. In fact, they went further. They said, even in 100% coal grid environment, the electric car would just eke out a little bit less pollutants. And for those of you astute in the audience, or those that check Nova Scotia Power's website, every second day, you'll notice that this isn't quite where our renewables are anyway. This is from 2007. So since 2007, this is our actual picture. That hydro and tidal is a little deceptive. That's not online yet. So subtract 10 from that hydro and tidal. That's waiting for Muskrat Falls to power the Atlantic Link. Great, okay, so with that caveat. So we're looking at 18% wind. This is all annualized information, by the way. Hydro and tidal at 10%, soon to be 20, with the Atlantic Link being electrified with hydropower, natural gas and oil coming down, and most importantly, solid fuel getting cut in half. And this is going to continue as we develop our own provincial resources here in the province. So more wind, more tidal and hydro, and more solar capacity. And that's fantastic because right now we ship in, I think, 86% of our fuel from Saudi crude. So we are reliant on a global supply chain for those for gas, for transportation. Those of you who are in the Nova Scotian environment right now, I think there was 56% of us or something like that from the poll this morning. Those of us in the province will remember 3 summers ago, I think it was, that we had a mix-up, they called it. There was a clerical error, I suppose, in our supply chain of oil. There was a tanker that was delayed 2 days, and we had a gas shortage in the summer. So that's how easy it is. Clerical error, just mistakes when the gas was getting here, and everybody had a shortage. There was a run on the pumps. Great. Here's that Union of Concerned Scientists study that I just wanted to bring up. This is the infographic from it. It just, again, just showing in the United States, to plug in an electric vehicle, you would be outcompeting some of the most fuel efficient vehicles almost by a factor of 2 in efficiency and air pollutants. Excellent. So electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids do contribute to a low carbon future, but also because of the no tailpipe emissions and the increasing of renewables and other non-emitting sources of energy are part of a low carbon future. And how am I doing for time? I can't actually see my time right now. I'm cutting into my question period.
You got about 6 minutes before we have to start the tour.
Okay, excellent. We're going to finish ahead of time then. This is great. Future trends. So right here in Nova Scotia, we have these great resources. Some of them are human capital, which is great. We've got 2 very proficient and world-renowned researchers right out of Dalhousie. Dalhousie is becoming quite the little cluster of, or already has become quite the little cluster of research on battery electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles. Mostly looking at the batteries, these 2 gentlemen. We see Dr. Jeff Dawn in the salmon colored shirt on our left. He's got a co-research agreement with Tesla. He just renewed it with Tesla Canada for another 5 years. That's a big deal because Tesla could have gone anywhere in the world to sign their co-research agreement with battery technology, and they chose little old Dalhousie out of Nova Scotia. So that's pretty amazing. It's getting us put on the map in a lot of cool ways. Basically, he's looking at the 3 questions of what makes up a lithium-ion battery or a good battery? How can we change the materials to make a better battery? And how can we bring those costs down? Essentially making the battery better. And he's doing quite a good job. We're looking at, on the furthest right, Dr. Lucas Swan in the checkered shirt. He's actually on an old Triumph muscle car. And that's a converted vehicle that he's got his master's students there that had converted that vehicle over to a fully electric muscle car. They take that all over to the car shows and impress all the old timers with their old vehicles. So that's a lot of fun. Lucas Swan, more seriously though, he's looking at what do we do with these electric vehicle batteries after the chassis of the vehicle rusts away, after its useful life is over. Do we recycle them? Do we, hope that a third world nation deals with it? Unfortunately, that's the case of so much of our e-waste today. Lucas Swan is looking at this and trying to get out ahead of it. How do we repurpose these batteries even before we recycle them? And just to, before I even get it in the question section, these batteries are recyclable. However, there's not a lot of recycling facilities at the time because not enough battery electric vehicles, they haven't been around long enough. It's the short answer of why there's not a lot of free market solutions to it yet, but they are developing, and interestingly enough, we're getting some development here in Canada, which is great. Local supply chains little bit more control over what goes on. So he's looking at repurposing the batteries even before we recycle them. He's taking batteries that are at 50% and 60% capacity, so potential energy storage, still after 12 and 16 years of life, and putting those batteries, once they're done being a transportation amendment, so a battery on a vehicle, they take it off and they're looking at putting them as decentralized grids in blackouts, having them on people's homes or businesses as power walls. He's even sending some into low orbit to test as satellite power systems. So he's got all these cool projects, and I got to visit his lab. It was pretty cool. He let me put my head in the same I guess tank that the low orbit satellite was in, and the barometric pressure there was pretty low. So I think that influenced my oxygen uptake on that particular demonstration. Oh, okay. I mentioned SUVs. I mentioned safety. This looks like it's playing for you guys too, so that's great. This is an SUV, a fully electric SUV, and you'll see there they threw it at this this testing facility. They threw it across this mat, and it actually, if you did see that, if you caught it quickly enough, and I'll try and replay it. There we go. And if you caught it quickly enough, you'll see with more and more velocity, they're shooting this vehicle, and it tips over. It just cants over 90 degrees, and normally that looks like 94, 95 degrees. Normally, in a high top vehicle where the weight is very top heavy with an SUV, that vehicle would roll over. Battery electric vehicle like that, the batteries are quite heavy, as those of us who have ever lifted a car battery will know, and they're put all along the bottom of the car. So the bottom of the car becomes very bottom heavy. The car becomes very bottom heavy, and the SUV actually allows for it to roll over back onto the wheels. And that's a great thing because, as we know from any Bruce Willis film, these vehicles get in all kinds of motor accidents. More seriously, rollovers, although rare, do have a fair amount of fatality associated with them. In the United States, 3.34% of accidents have a rollover in them, but they actually contribute to 33% of the deaths in motor vehicle accidents. And that's nowhere near what the air pollutant deaths are, as I already showed you in that 7.5 graph.
Your 1 minute warning, Brendan.
1 minute? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. So future trends, it's expanding. There's e-bikes, there's e-scooters, there's school buses, there's even passenger air that's going fully electric. I mentioned the Tesla Semi moving cargo around. We at NextRide are a little ambivalent or agnostic, I suppose, about so many batteries going into 18-wheelers to move goods around. That's a good way to reduce quite a bit of air pollutant. However, a better way might be hydrogen. And we're still waiting to see which of these will take the reins. It may be a case that both will exist together. There's lots of air pollutant to reduce, so we're willing to see where the chips fall on this one. But hydrogen, people will often confuse battery electric and hydrogen. Hydrogen is an example of a low emitting vehicle. However, a little different, it has a very small battery, and it's usually stored as a liquid gas. So we do see it being a decent way for moving goods around for the reasons that are on the bottom of your screen. The charge time on a battery for an 18-wheeler would be enormous. All right, and I think this is my last slide. It's my second last slide. I'll be quick. So at the end of the day, I love my job. I get to see faces like this because the vehicles are very performant. They perform very well, very performance driven. They've got that nice low center of gravity. As I mentioned, the batteries are on the bottom of the cars. So you're able to drive these vehicles quite proficiently like a sports vehicle. They hug the road, lots of traction in black ice and snowy conditions as we get here all the time. In Nova Scotia, I almost fell on my way into work today. The sidewalks and streets were so icy. And people are surprised when they go for test drives. We get faces like that all the time. Torque at all acceleration curves. Okay, last slide, I promise. So our website, if you want to book a test drive, we have a wait list. You can add yourself to our wait list. And then we will come, that's a signal for myself and my coworkers to book an appointment in an area near you so that we can get you guys in electric vehicles and experience the low pollutant, low emission vehicles. So hop on to evassist.ca and check that out. Awesome. So I will, do you want me to do questions now, or do you want me to do the little video?
Yeah, if you could do the video, and then we'll do questions.
Okay, great. My cursor, where is it? Oh, here we go. Can you guys all see that, the video? No? I might have to reshare. 1 second. New share. Zoom's getting so sophisticated. New share. Don't even have to stop. There we go. Well, boom. How's that? You guys see that?
Yeah.
Great.
You don't have sound on it though, unfortunately.
I'm so sorry. You don't have sound on it. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
I was dancing along to the cool music. You guys must have been like, this guy is nuts. He's hearing things that aren't being heard. Okay, so how open with, I know in Teams you have to like permit the audio. Let's see, share sound. Here we go. Click. Look at that. Now we're cooking with fire. I'll back it up so that I don't look crazy. There is cool music, I swear. There we go.
We're about to drive an
electric car.
electric car.
So I'm going out on a test drive in the Chevrolet Bolt EV.
How do you turn on?
Hi, I'm Zebby. Put your foot on the brake and hit the start button beside the steering wheel.
Cool. Okay, so button down, drive, we're good to go.
There's no vibration, there's no shaking. Everything is quiet and smooth. This is the way a vehicle should drive.
Hey Zevi, can I drive you to Toronto from Nova Scotia?
No sweat. Canada already has a network of more than 1,000 level 3 fast chargers for me to plug into.
There we go. That's what's up, Zevi.
What's the kind of range I'm getting on this bad boy?
I can go over 380 kilometers before I need a recharge.
Hey Zevi, how do these cars do in the wintertime?
I've got you covered. Every other car sold in Norway is an EV, and their winters make ours look easy.
Okay, so that wasn't sports mode.
Yes, sure.
Oh, that's so fun.
The drive was really cool. The car's super responsive.
We loved our
We loved our test drive.
It's a really nice ride. Next vehicle's got to be one of these kind of cars. I'm sold.